all that competition is that any talented entrepreneur anywhere in the world can now compete with you and your idea. And any big company around the world, any big company based in San Francisco can compete with you and your company. And because it's, in my view, it's hard enough to build even a small company, that you might as well try to build a really big company and define a brand new category of software or service. And there's really no point in building the Me Too company just because there's competition everywhere, as I said. And one of the other things that I think is interesting is that it's gotten so hard, especially with consumer companies, to compete with big like Facebook and Google for customer acquisition. You have to pay them lots of money, that you really need to create something that you own your own category. There's a little bit, and I'll go into some other examples. Now, just to inspire you a little bit, here are 4 very large companies, only one of which I'm an investor in, unfortunately. Well, I guess I got lucky one time. They were all built over the last few years, maybe even the last 10 years, mostly outside of the US. Zoom obviously is something that everyone's talking about right now and has been spending a lot of time on this year in 2020 for obvious reasons. And Zoom's a company that many of us think about as a Silicon Valley company, but their entire engineering department is based in China. And the technology was always built in China. And and Zoom is interesting because it's not a China exclusive company. And because China is such a large market, many of the biggest companies in China mostly serve the Chinese market only and not the global market. But Zoom is different. Zoom was started in Silicon Valley, but with most of their operation in China. So it's truly a global company. And then Zendesk took a little bit of a different path. And basically what I'm trying to do here is give you some ideas of different ways that you can build your startup globally. There's not just one way to do it. Zendesk was started in Copenhagen in Denmark through the Series A stage. And after the Series A stage, then moved to Boston in the United States. And then after, I don't quite remember, maybe the Series B, moved out to San Francisco, and now their office is on Market Street in San Francisco next to Twitter and Uber. But at heart, a Danish company. UiPath, more recently, is just raising right now at a $10 billion valuation, and they're the original company that came up with this idea of robotic process automation in the enterprise. And UiPath is known as a Silicon Valley company, but was started and largely built in Romania. So you can build some of the largest startups in the world, the largest startups in history, from any country you're in. It doesn't have to be a big country. It doesn't have to be Silicon Valley. But generally, it's been important to engage with the Silicon Valley community and engage with the global startup community and build offices and build teams in the best place in the world, or where you have an advantage. So you might have some people in San Francisco, some people in New York, a lot of people in Romania. Now, I include Outreach here, another billion-dollar company. This is one that I'm an investor in, because Outreach took this path, but just within the United States. So this is another trend where Outreach was started in Seattle, but it's actually harder to raise money even in Seattle, where Microsoft and Amazon are, than it is in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And so for a short period in the life of the company, the founder moved to Silicon Valley for 6 or 9 months to present the company as a Silicon Valley company to investors in Silicon Valley, to raise his seed and Series A rounds of investment before going back to Seattle, where the rest of the business was. And at that time, then they also opened their non-engineering office in the state of Pennsylvania on the East Coast of the United States, because it was a better place to hire a lot of salespeople. than Seattle or Silicon Valley, where it's too expensive. And so just like Zoom or Zendesk or UiPath was, taking the best of ecosystems, different ecosystems around the world and putting that all together into one company, Outreach has done the same just within the United States. So that's a way that you can build a company as well. And the other thing that's really interesting is that winners can really come from anywhere. And on the biggest stage, social networking, and I think that it's indicative that TikTok is and ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, is the biggest new social platform, fastest growing, biggest threat to Facebook. And it's not a Silicon Valley company, it's a Chinese company, which is, I think, pretty amazing. And it didn't used to be true. And I think when this happened last year, it really changed the industry and really made people think differently. And so the point I'm making is even the next big SaaS company could come from Turkey or any of the other 15 time zones that you guys are building your company in.